Hello, my name is Travis Newbill. I live and work here at Shambhala Mountain Center, where we're going to be hosting one of my favorite programs coming up in December called Fearlessly Creative, a meditation and writing retreat with Susan Piver. And that's happening from December 17th through the 21st. And I'm so glad and honored to have my friend and mentor, Susan Piver, here on the line today for some discussion about writing and meditation, and how those two, the interplay between those two, and as well as some discussion about the retreat and how that is so conducive to a good writing experience. So Susan, in case you don't know, is a best-selling author of several books, including the recently released Guide to Meditation called Start Here Now, a guide to the practice and path of meditation. I may have flubbed the title just a little bit, but in any case, Susan is awesome, as you probably know. Susan, thank you for being here.
I'm so glad to be here, and it's so nice to talk to you, Travis, as always.
So I've done this weekend retreat with you 2 times now, the last 2 years, and I've had conversations with you about writing and meditation and life outside of the programs. And one thing that comes up is like the most practical thing, and that is like finding the time to write. And in fact, like in the program description for this retreat, it says, this is like going to give you time to write, because that's the thing that writers need the most. And as somebody who is I'm serious about my meditation practice and also serious about being a writer, and I know that you are also. So I wonder what sort of advice you might have for those of us who are trying to do both, especially since it seems to be that it's good to do both on a regular basis and not just every once in a while.
Yeah, that's true. These are both practices that respond to continuity. And yeah, it's, if you try to figure out, well, how can I find time to do all of these things? The answer is probably you might not be able to do it in the way you would hope, just because everybody's so busy. But that's okay. You don't have to find a mountain retreat and go sit there by yourself for a month in order to write. In fact, that usually doesn't work. Just like with meditation, what is helpful is finding small, regular time periods where you can where you do your best to just show up and write. And I know that maybe sounds kind of obvious, but I think you may think, well, what could writing for 10 minutes do for me? I want to write this story that's so big, or I want to write a novel. I don't know I'm not quite sure what it's about. How can working on my writing 10 minutes a day get me anywhere? Well, just like meditating for 10 minutes a day can help you deepen your practice, writing for 10 minutes a day or 20 minutes or whatever it is can do the same, by the simple fact that although you might not be outputting a lot of words and a lot of pages, you are keeping your mind connected to your project. You're keeping your mind connected to your work. You're keeping your mind connected to your voice. You're bringing that voice out every day, as it were, and taking it for a walk. And then when you can, find longer periods. Usually we wait until we can find those longer periods, which, usually you can find a day every couple months, or, something like that. But then when you start, it's like you're not quite sure how to take advantage of all of that time. But if you keep yourself in the game by just doing these short writing bits about your project, most usefully, although it could be about anything, then when you find you have a bigger space to write, you're not, you're warmed up. It's like you want to play a concerto, but you don't practice your scales, and then you go somewhere to play it and you have to literally start from the beginning. So this way, the process still is unfolding. So that's the best thing I can suggest, I think, but also to give yourself a break because it's hard to fit these things in.
Mm-hmm. That's helpful. I think something else that comes along with being a meditator and a writer, meditation, we become a little bit more familiar with what's happening in our minds, and then also like maybe how our behavior affects those around us. And so as a writer, that may bring up the questions of like, well, what things should I actually write down? And is this useful or not useful? And so there's a little like inner critic thing there. And then sort of watching, the writing go out and wondering if it's actually helpful to people. This seems to fall into the category in Buddhism, which is called right speech. And so I wonder, I've heard you say that that's like an important consideration of yours. And so I wonder what your relationship is to this, to right speech as an author of books, and also somebody who's writing a lot publicly for a lot of people through your blog, your emails, social media, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's a really good question, Travis, and I would like to give it more thought and get back to you in a week with a whole book on it because I'm so interested in it. I think one thing you said in there is what I would take out of the equation, which is trying to be helpful to others. I believe, and I have found, that when you write to be helpful, it may be good, it may be useful, and could be right speech, but it lacks a kind of magnetizing life force that is present when you are writing to express yourself, to share something that you're passionate about, to tell something, put something out in words that you're not quite sure how to say, but that is important to you. When you stay focused on what you have to say and saying it in the way that makes the most sense to you and allowing it to come forth. In other words, writing more as an art form, as an act, as a creative act, rather than a prescriptive act, I think that it ends up being the most helpful to others because it has a kind of truth and life that trying to have right speech doesn't have. So we have to take a chance and speak authentically and skillfully, not stupidly, and have some faith that what you say that is most powerful to you, most central to you, will also be the most helpful to others. So I think it's not a two-step process. It's a one-step process.
So, expressing ourselves authentically. How does meditation play into this? Maybe this is a good time to kind of turn towards that. How does meditation practice and writing go together?
Yeah, they go together really, really well. And I've seen from teaching this retreat that I'll be doing in December over and over and over again that this combination seems to have some sort of magical effect. It makes words come out. It's really amazing. So they go together in a lot of ways, and they are completely separate practices at the same time. But there's something about practicing meditation that allows the inner critic to sort of gradually shut herself up. Or if she doesn't shut up, you develop a different relationship to that voice by working with your thoughts in meditation and letting them go, seeing that they are just sort of a color wash on the environment that is temporary, and coming back instead to your breath. You see that even your most harshest critical thoughts are simply a color wash. And when you're writing and that voice rears its head most ferociously, you can, it's not that you don't have it, it's that you can hold it in a different way and sort of think, oh, that's happening now. That person who hates me and is telling me to stop is here now. Oh, that's interesting. And just like you let go of thoughts in meditation to come back to your breath, you can let go of such thoughts in writing and come back to your work. So both meditation teaches you how to stay with your experience and not abandon it. And as a writer, there is nothing more important than cultivating this capacity to stay with the work, stay with it, help it, shepherd it, fall in love with it, become estranged from it, rediscover it. That ability to be in process is of, you can't think of anything more important when it comes to writing. And meditation teaches you how to do that.
Mm. So as you sort of mentioned, this retreat you've been leading for several years now, which really brings together, it creates, because I've done it a couple times, it's a full weekend, a long weekend of in this pretty ideal container where we do meditation practice and then really like open it up to writing, and then like close the writing session, come together. In the evenings, there's people, if they are inspired to, may share their work. It's a beautiful weekend, and it's just been really enjoyable for me the last couple of years when I've done it, because it's just such a nice like situation for writing, and then it, like, the community aspect of it makes me appreciate like what writing is and how it really offers a window into people and sort of thing. So there's some personal things that I love about this weekend, and I wonder if there's anything else about the retreat at Shambhala Mountain Center the weekend that hasn't come up in the conversation, or that I haven't blabbered on about yet, that you'd like to add before we close.
Yeah, sure. And I'm so glad that you've enjoyed it, and I'm so glad whenever you're in it. And I have the same experience, by the way, as you do, that it's just like delightful to sort of give yourself over to your writing. And I've seen it happen now over and over again. Writing requires what we in the Shambhala Buddhist world call container principle. And without a container, writing doesn't happen as readily. And by container, I just mean, if you have a deadline, that's a container. Suddenly you know what to say, 36 hours before the deadline. It's to think, if anyone is watching this who thinks, well, I want to write, I just need to make myself go sit at my desk, every Sunday or at 4 a.m. for an hour. And if anyone has that thought, like, that's all I need to do to make my writing happen, well, that's probably not enough. Otherwise you would do it. Something more is required for writing. And there's something about this retreat, and it's not like magic, I don't think, but there's something magical about being in a contained program. It starts at this time, it ends at that time, and then having a schedule that is very specific. We're going to meditate for a half hour. Then we're going to do this journaling exercise. Then you're going to have your personal writing time, which starts at 10:30 and ends at 12:30, just for an example. And you start at 10:30 and a hard stop at 12:30. And then you can do anything you want in those few hours. You can just start writing, you can read something, you can contemplate, you can nap and then write. It's for you to devote yourself to your writing, whatever that might look for you in the moment. There's something about the start now and now stop that creates a kind of traction. And the other thing that helps create the traction, you mentioned, Travis, is there are other people there who are also doing this. You're not talking to them because you're each doing your writing, but there's this sense of community and of the presence of other writers trying to do the same thing you are that helps you stay with your work. And then the next day the program is exactly the same, and the next day it's the same after that. The schedule is the same because the schedule creates the container for the writing to unfold. And I just cannot tell you how strongly I feel about it, how happy I am to do it myself, to be able to participate in it, and how delighted I am to see others, you know, working to meet their own voice with the support of meditation, the support of fellow writers, and the support of the extraordinary environment that is Shambhala Mountain Center in the winter. It's like the perfect writing environment.
Well, we're definitely looking forward to hosting the retreat again, and I plan on participating again.
Oh, good.
And yeah, for sure. And it's coming up, just to remind everyone who may be watching or listening, December 17th through the 21st, Fearlessly Creative Meditation and Writing Retreat with Susan Piver and some other wonderful people. It's usually like, well, in my experience, every time it's like a group of wonderful people and great writing comes out of it. So please join us for that. Susan, thank you once again for joining me today and talking about this stuff. And wish we could talk about it for 3 hours, but there'll be plenty of time to talk about it in the long weekend. And so looking forward to that. So thanks again.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Everybody can stay tuned to the Shambhala Mountain Center blog to see more interviews like this and other things from teachers and people from the SMC community. So please stay tuned, and we'll see you later. Bye.